We're about to break down the ultimate self-help tool in slaying your limiting beliefs and stepping into your extraordinary. Stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Masoodha and I'm a personal development coach and all things self-development obsessed. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. As promised, this video is specifically dedicated to showing you how to do an EFT session. Now, if you haven't watched my first video, I highly recommend that you do. It's linked in the description box below. We spoke about the different aspects of self-limiting beliefs. We touched on emotions, energy, the conscious, the subconscious brain, and then I told you about this amazing tool that can help to slay self-limiting beliefs, which is what I'm really eager to get into, and I don't want to keep this video too long. So you don't necessarily need to understand any of this in order for EFT to be effective, but I suggest that you do because it just gives you an appreciation for this tool. Now, EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, is the ultimate self-help tool. It is based on energy psychology and has its roots in Chinese traditional medicine. Now, like I said in the previous video, it can be used for any area of our life that we find that we're struggling with, because everything is based on energy and it's this interaction of this energy and the vibrational frequencies that are at play. So with EFT, what we're doing is we're actually helping to regulate and harmonize the flow of energy within the body. Now we have a circuit of channels within the body, which is called a meridian system, that's mirrored symmetrically on either side. And within this meridian system, we have acupuncture points. So to conceptualize it, we can consider the meridian system as a conductor and the acupuncture points as amplifiers. And through this conductor and these amplifiers, universal energy is supposed to flow harmoniously and freely. But what happens is that when we have negative emotions in the body that are influenced from negative thought patterns and negative beliefs, we are actually disrupting this flow of energy. And if we don't release these negative emotions or resolve these negative emotions, it keeps us stuck in this negative thought patterns, this negative belief pattern, and we're basically then vibrating at very low vibrational frequencies. And I briefly mentioned how that affects our lives and our circumstances. But even more than that, what tends to happen is if these emotions go unresolved, they sometimes can manifest as actual physical illnesses in the body. And that's why it's so important for us to keep a check on our emotions. For this video, what I want to do is just take you quickly through what EFT is, and then we'll do an actual generic session that you can apply to any area of your life and sort of make it as specific as possible. But I'll explain all of that as and when we get to that video. So like I said, it can be applied to any emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual stumbling block. And I just want to run very quickly through the different areas that it has been used for and has found to be effective. It's in my notes, it's so long, so forgive me. I'm just going to read off my notes here. It has been used for anxiety, panic attacks, phobias, negative emotional states like guilt, shame, fear, anger, depression, traumatic memories, PTSD, OCD, dyslexia, eating disorders, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, grief, rejection, loneliness, cravings, smoking, nervous habits, addictions, and on and on and on it goes. But as a disclaimer, like I mentioned in the last video, this is not meant to replace conventional medical treatment. So if you are receiving any therapy or treatment, medical treatment, please use this in conjunction with your medical healthcare professional. All right, so like I mentioned, what we're doing with EFT is we're trying to harmonize and balance the flow of energy in the body. So what we're doing is we're basically just tapping on specific acupuncture points. I'm going to briefly run you through where these points are, and then we're going to get into an actual session. So the first acupuncture point that we're going to focus on is found on the side of the hand. So it's in line with the pinky finger on the side of the palm. And that's going to be the first point that we start tapping on, right? And we're going to tap with the fingers of the other hand. You can use all 4 or just 3. It doesn't matter. What's important is to make sure that the tip of the middle finger makes contact with that specific point, because there is another very important acupuncture point at the tip of this middle finger. So we want to make sure that there's contact between the two. The next point we're going to be focusing on is here on the side of the eyebrow. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether you do it on the right side or the left side, because the meridian system is mirrored symmetrically. So you can do either side or both. And that would be the second point. Then we're going to move over to the next point, which is the side of the eye, just there. We're going to be tapping on that point. So we're going to do a minimum of 7 taps. You can do more. And it's very light tapping that we're doing. The next one is at the bottom of the eye, just underneath the eye, just there. The next one we move on to is underneath the nose, just above the lip. Then we move on to underneath the bottom lip, just above the chin, in that little groove. The next one is found here at the collarbone. So it's just underneath the collarbone, between the first rib and that collarbone. So just that area that you want to tap on. The next one would be under the arm. So for women, it's generally where the bra strap is. For men, it would be in line with the nipple. And we're going to be tapping there. And the next point is found at the top of the head. So it's generally this area, and we're going to be tapping. Now, when you're tapping on the top of your head, you'll find that you use all 5 fingers, which is fine. And we're just going to lightly tap in a small little circle at the top of the head. And those are the acupressure and acupuncture points. Now, the one thing to remember that's really important is that each of these points are linked to a specific organ, and these organs hold specific emotions. Now, for a full breakdown of that, to keep this video short, I haven't discussed that in detail, but you can find all that information in my blog post on my website. I've linked that below as well. Just to give you an idea, the karate chop point is linked to the small intestine, and it holds on to sadness, this the inability to start something new, this fear of change. So when we tap on this, we're actually releasing those emotions, right? Now I want to get into the actual session itself. Now, before you get started with a session, make sure that you're well hydrated. Water is a good conductor of energy, so just make sure that you're drinking before, during, and after a session. Also, make sure that you're in comfortable clothes, you're sitting comfortably, you're in a place that's quiet where you're not going to be disturbed. Now that you've got all of that down, I usually start a session by asking my clients to take a few deep breaths in. Because generally, we're always stuck in our heads. We don't know how to stop the chatter. By breathing in deeply for about 4 or 5 times for a count of 4. So breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4. I generally find that it helps to relax the mind, and you're able then to connect with your body. Now, the point is to focus on a specific feeling in the body. Now, if it's a physical pain that you want to tap on, let's just say you have a headache that you want to get rid of, you can tap on the headache. It's easy to identify because it's a pain in the head. When it comes to an emotional discomfort, sometimes it can be a little harder to locate. We get too stuck in this idea of I need to identify the emotion. The great thing about EFT is that you do not need to identify what the emotion is. All you need to do is get connected with the body. So whatever the dominant feeling is what you're going to be tapping on. You don't need to understand what the emotion is. That will eventually come with time. So what I find with my clients is generally when I ask them to scan their body for any dominant discomfort or emotion, it'll generally come up as a sense of heaviness in the chest or the throat. And as we tap, they identify it as anxiety. But you don't need to know that it's anxiety. You just need to make the connection with the feeling. So when you're doing the session for yourself and you're not really sure what to start tapping on, that would be a good idea to start. But for the session itself, I want to keep it very broad just to show you how to do it. Okay, so for purposes of this video, I'm gonna direct the session to a very common self-limiting belief, which is this feeling of not being enough. Now, I'm going to keep it general, right? But for EFT to be most effective, we need to be as specific as possible. So if this is a self-limiting belief that you feel you can identify with, I'm going to ask you to be as specific as possible. So it's going to be, I do not feel whatever kind of not enoughness you're feeling. So generally it's not smart enough, not thin enough, not thick enough, not tall enough, any kind of enough. You're just going to try and make it as specific as possible and connect that statement to a specific feeling in the body. So generally not feeling enough, you would try and identify where you're feeling it in the body and what is that emotion that is associated with that feeling, right? So we're going to start off by determining the level of intensity of this feeling. And we rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being highest in intensity, 0 being non-existent. The reason we do this is because this is going to help us to track the progress, because as we tap, we're going to be diminishing this feeling, right? So we start off by tapping on this karate chop point and using the fingers of the other hand. And we're going to start with a setup phrase. And this is how it goes. You can do this with me as I go along. So as we're tapping, we say, even though I don't feel enough right now, I truly and completely love and accept myself exactly as I am. And we're going to repeat this statement 3 times. Even though I really don't feel enough right now, I truly and completely love and accept myself exactly as I am. One more time. Even though I don't feel enough right now, I truly and completely love and accept myself exactly as I am. Now, when we're tapping on the other points, this is the setup phrase. We're now going to move on to the other acupressure and acupuncture points, and we're going to use a reminder phrase. But it's not so important what you say. What is important is staying connected with that feeling of not feeling enough, right? So I'm just going to say the reminder phrase to help me to stay connected with that feeling. So this feeling of not being enough, this deep sense of not being enough, this feeling of just not being enough. And I'm going to continue saying this reminder phrase to keep me staying connected with that emotion. This feeling of not being enough. This deep sense of just not being enough. This feeling of not being enough. This feeling of not being enough. Staying connected to the feeling. This feeling of just not being enough. Now that was one round of tapping. You're going to continue tapping in the sequence until you feel a drastic shift in the level of intensity. Now, what I'd like to point out is that when you're tapping for things like not feeling enough, generally there'll be a shift of emotion. So as you're tapping, verbalizing not feeling enough, you'll find that all of a sudden you start feeling a sense of sadness. Now, there's different emotions that are attached to our self-limiting beliefs, and as we tap, we're unlayering these emotions. So you need to be aware of the fact that this is going to happen. All you need to do though is to be connected or to stay connected to that specific emotion until you've resolved it and cleared it. So let's take, for example, if you started off with this setup phrase and tapping on not feeling enough, and all of a sudden you just connect with this deep sense of sadness. Then what you do is you continue tapping, and your reminder phrase is then going to be, now I'm just feeling sad, this deep level of sadness that I'm feeling. It's not necessary for you to go back and do the even though again. You just continue tapping by saying, now I'm feeling this deep sense of sadness, feeling this deep sense of sadness, staying connected. Anything that's going to help you stay connected with that feeling until you find that it has been resolved. So if you can scan your body for that feeling of sadness and it's at a 0 or as close to 0 as possible, you know that that emotion has been resolved. And that is the point of EFT. We're trying to unlayer and unpack and release these negative emotions from our energy system. And there you have it. That is an actual EFT session done. Now, I'm going to ask you to learn to be very patient with yourself. You may be tempted to want to work on as many emotions as possible, but please just be patient with yourself. Remember, these are years of pent up emotions. Different people feel different things. So you are definitely going to feel lighter. It's an actual release and a shift in energy. So you're going to feel lighter. Some people tend to feel a little bit tired. You may feel vulnerable, or you may just be bouncing around with loads of energy. Everyone's different, so just allow yourself to feel whatever it is you need to feel. But bear in mind that just by releasing this energy, you are well on your way to stepping into the most extraordinary version of yourself. So I'm very excited for you to try this. Even more excited to hear your results. So please do share that in the comment section. If you have any questions, pop them in the comment section, or you can just email me via the website. I hope you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Remember, I do one-on-one coaching as well. For more information, you can contact me on or through my website. And yeah, and I'm going to do exactly what everybody else does. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, share, and I will see you on the next video. If you haven't heard it already, remember, you are absolutely extraordinary.